Welcome back to another episode of We Roguelike It. Episode 2 made it to 2 weeks. Yes!
Yeah!
As last week, we're talking about Hand of Fate. As our second week out of probably 4 that we've guessed would take us. We guessed it would take us about 4 weeks. I think after playing a little bit more of it, that's probably as far as we're gonna go.
Yeah, it seems about right. It's a good chance to delve a little bit deeper. It's a good chance to see the depth the game has to offer without doing a full year-long podcast on the ins and outs of different builds.
Yeah, weird that we don't want to do one of those immediately again.
It's almost as if we might have learned our lesson.
Yeah, weird. Until Afterbirth Plus comes out and both of us are sort of like, yeah, maybe we could go back to it?
Yeah, We Roguelike It on hiatus.
Yeah.
Binding of Moonpir back in action.
That's right. So, second week of Hand of Fate. Honestly, I didn't have a ton of time to play it this week, so I played very little.
I played more than enough, I would say, for this week. Between this and Game Club and Game of the Year, very, very rapidly approaching.
Yes.
I was all about sitting down and just hammering as much as I could out the door. I realized I have always in my head had this game in my brain as Manos Hand of Fate.
Right.
Which is a movie.
Right. The Mystery Science Theater famous movie.
That one.
Yeah.
So that might explain why I keep referring to this in my brain as Manos Hand of Fate. Like, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but right there at the top of my notes for last week, it says Manos Hand of Fate, and then Manos is crossed out.
That would be. I would be really excited to see the Manos Hand of Fate video game.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But so yeah, let's talk about actual Hand of Fate, not the Manos version, for a little bit. So I'm now more than halfway through the chest, which I do find it kind of funny that the weird coffin thing that opens, it has 4 essentially story arcs, which is like, oh, if I can hit 1 a week, then that's perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Weirdly how it turns out. I'm halfway through the 3rd one at this point, so I'm now getting queens instead of jacks.
Okay.
And the game is much more of a debag to you now instead.
Right. Yeah, I feel like you start getting a handful of good cards every once in a while, and then just a truckload of real bad cards.
Yep. Let me tell you about the curse on the last round, which was every time I bought something, I got a curse.
Oh no.
So I couldn't really utilize any of the shops.
Oh,
I couldn't buy food when I was running out of food because no matter how much gold I had, it was like, oh, if I do this, I'm going to be cursed, which is a slight problem, we should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, so far it's like I said, I'm up to the 3rd row down. I'm about halfway. I think I'm halfway across exactly now, and it's turned into a roguelike, shall we say?
Yeah.
At first, the first 2 rows, I was thinking, this is a bit easy. Like,
yeah.
I'm cruising through this, and for someone who's used to Isaac kicking the teeth kind of thing, it was shocking to cruise through the first 2 levels, and then literally I think when I got to the 3rd row, the guy was like, oh, the more successful you are, the meaner I am. And I was like, oh, everything is terrible too has arrived.
Right. It lulled you in a false sense of security.
Yep.
It's gonna pounce on you.
I will say, the standout thing for this game for me so far is how I think we mentioned it last week, it's the storyline told through cards through multiple runs.
Yeah.
Like, I'm now up to the Goblin King stage 5. I'm now up to the Guild Master. Like, it's like
right.
you complete a card, you get the token, and then that token gives you another encounter which progresses the story for that particular card line. And the fact that it keeps on going and going and going, and now I've got like 5 or 6 story arcs on the go at a time. It's like, this is kind of cool.
Yeah,
like,
it's such a cool idea.
Yeah, like, it's fantastically done. My pro tip this week is, if you get it, equip the Plunderer's Helmet at all costs.
What does that one do?
every time you draw a gain card, you draw 2 and pick 1.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
That's pretty powerful.
I got the Mr. Moneybags or whatever it is achievement for having 200 gold in my possession because I had that helmet, and it was like, okay, you've just done a deal with this shop merchant. You give him 10 gold and he pays you back later. And the way he pays you back is 3 gold gain cards, which for me meant 6 gold gain cards.
Oh, man.
And it was like, here's 1. Do you want 5 gold or do you want 40 gold? I'll take the 40. Thank you very much. Here's another one. Do you want 10 gold or do you want 20 gold? I'll take the 20. Thank you very much. So it very quickly escalated into a, oh no, I have too much money kind of situation.
Right.
But the Plunderer's Helm was really, really good. And now I still do the auto deck at the start of every run. But I always go in and double check. It's like, is the Plunderer's Helm in? Because if the Plunderer's Helm's not in, this deck is not good enough.
Yeah, I'm really happy when card games have the auto deck, because, like, I feel like I could get to the point where I'm, like, min-maxing the gear and I'm min-maxing enemy cards and stuff, but I feel like I'll never get that deep into Hand of Fate to get anywhere near that. Yeah,
for me that feels a bit like when I'm going to be achievement hunting. That feels like that's the logical step for me. Right. Some of the achievements in this game have every single equipment card available to you. 0.83% have that achievement.
Yikes.
But it's a roguelike and it's fun, so I'm probably, even after we've finished with it here, I'm probably still going to jump in because I love the mechanics, I love the world building, I love the fact that even though it is a roguelike, it's a relaxed roguelike.
Yeah.
It's not one that I have to think about too much. And note to self, remember dodges on the A button. I don't know if I mentioned that last week, but every time anyone would have the red symbol above them, which means they're doing an undodgeable attack, I'd just get hit by them. Because I didn't know A was a dodge button.
Yeah, the controls are a little weird. Like, each button isn't exactly where I feel like I would put it, but it's not that it doesn't make sense, it's just sort of like, I sort of never assume that dodge is going to be on A.
Yeah, it does feel a little odd, but, you know, that's fine, that's their thing. It's my fault for not looking at the actual controls too, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, this game's really, really good. Like, really good. Yeah. I'm impressed and shocked as to how amazing this game is, and we mentioned it pre-show. It was full credit to you and Hannah shouting it out years and years ago.
Right.
Nobody was listening to you.
I know.
And Hannah taking the deepest of dives into his card deck was just... We probably should have paid more attention to this a lot longer.
Yeah, that's why I'm happy that Hand of Fate 2 came out on Switch. I feel like that's a really good platform for it, and from everything, I've seen a little bit about Hand of Fate 2, but, you know, it's in our backlog for the show, so I don't want to look at it too much, but it seems like they've done a lot of improvements in general to it, so I'm really looking forward to playing Hand of Fate 2 at some point, 15 years from now when we get to it in our backlog.
Yeah, I mean, come on, we've only got approximately 4 weeks per game, 100 and something games in the list at this point.
Yeah, so check out that game on 2026 when we get to it.
Yep.
Before we go, we do have a question from T-Bob Rocks in Discord. He says, how much of roguelike elements that cross over into another genre before you consider it a roguelike?
I'll be honest, minimal. Like, for me, it's just a case of, even if it's got the faintest of paintbrushes, even if it's got a Bob Ross level of painting on the game, I will take that as a roguelike or a roguelite, because even if it doesn't fully embrace it, something just as simple as like the corpse runs or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we talked about why do I forget it again? Hollow Knight.
Yeah.
Literally the only roguelite or like thing that has is corpse runs.
Yeah. And that's almost more Dark Souls than it is roguelike.
Yeah, exactly. So to be honest, I think we mentioned it in episode 0, and stop me if I'm speaking for you here, but we both tend to take a much wider view of the spectrum than the literal definitions of a genre.
Yeah, and like, I don't want to. I feel like that it would be a natural thing to sit here and be like, all right, over every month we're going to sit here and we're going to define whether this game is a roguelike or not. Like, to me, I'm not super. I just want to play a bunch of hopefully fun games, and some of them are going to be bad, and that's fine.
Yeah.
To me, the definition where that line crosses from one to the other, if you give me a game that has procedurally generated dungeons, and that's really it, to me that's not really a roguelike. Like, that's almost like Diablo 3. You know, you just have randomized or lightly randomized dungeons.
Yeah.
When you start doing stuff like most roguelikes do, where you have some larger progression, or you have larger goals that you're working on between, sort of from run to run or between runs, and especially if you have the die often, keep restarting sort of thing, to me that's the core of roguelikes. You know, high difficulty, high death count, randomization, and then kind of you're working towards a larger goal. I feel like that last piece is specifically a newer roguelike thing in probably the last 10 years or so, because I feel like that's what's made roguelikes more accessible, is not just like, well, see how far you can get on each run. Whoops, you died. Start the whole game back over.
It's the save file progression rather than the individual character progression, which, I'll be honest, that's the thing that hooked me about them.
Yep.
About this type of game. It's the, I do a run, but then when I go back, I'm stronger.
Right.
No wonder I love Dead Rising 1 as much as I did.
Yeah, exactly. Wait a minute, that's a roguelike. Yeah. Yep. Which is on our list, by the way, for anyone listening, because it is actually. I think the thing about Dead Rising is probably that's one of the best early examples of roguelikes trying to break into something different, and that's why the game was so poorly reviewed at the time. Nowadays, it would come out and be like, "Oh, good, a zombie roguelike, 5 out of 10, whatever." But
I think honestly. I think that game is weird to say this. The game was probably 5 to 10 years too early.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if the Dead Rising franchise didn't exist right now, and that game came out in the same way like the Dead Rising 4 looked, but it had these core mechanics of Dead Rising 1, people would be losing their noggins over the thing.
Yep. Yeah, we finally have the vocabulary for it.
It's a AAA roguelike, and it doesn't matter that it's a zombie game because it's amazing. And it's like, like, I love that game earnestly from the day it came out.
Yeah, me too.
But that was literally 10 years too soon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about it on this show when it came out. The very first one came out. And, you know, the coverage for that game from day one was, I died, and I'm starting the whole game back over. Sure, I'm a little bit stronger, but come on. It's like, yeah, but that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll get to it at some point, and we were talking offline a little bit ago. I didn't even realize that there was a remaster of the first one, so that's pretty exciting.
I would honestly debate whether or not I play the remaster or the OG version.
Yeah.
Because I literally have 2 achievements left in the OG version.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And Dead Rising, doing achievements wrong, every achievement in that game is worth 25 gamer score. The easiest and the hardest. All 25.
Man, early achievements were great.
Yes. Beat the game, 25 gamer score. Right. Have 7 women follow you around at once. 25 gamer score.
Right.
Kill 56,000 zombies. 25 gamer score.
But I did it.
Yep.
Oh, man. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, T-Barmox, for sending in a question in Discord if you'd like to do so. Discord is probably the best place to do it. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye.